Okay, so this is a tough one, right? I mean, we're talking about Garth Brooks here.
Yeah.
Like the name, the legend,
Right.
and the accusations that are being thrown around. It's a lot.
It really throws into sharp relief, I think, this contrast that we see so often between a carefully curated public image and then the reality.
Yeah, and it's messy. Like we're talking about a lawsuit
Right.
filed by Jane Roe, and we know that's to protect her identity, of course.
exactly.
But she's alleging that during her time, and this is important, during her time as a makeup artist and hairstylist for Brooks,
Yeah.
that she was subjected to, I mean, we're talking inappropriate exposure, advances, explicit messages.
Right. That's a laundry list.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then it gets even more serious with the allegations stemming from this 2019 incident in an LA hotel room.
And what's really striking in the lawsuit is the emphasis on this power dynamic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because Jane Roe, she claims that Brooks knew that she was in a financially vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And that he used that.
Yeah, it's like, it's more than just like, oh, this one encounter happened. This is like a pattern.
Right, exactly.
Of behavior.
Over several years.
Allegedly, right. We have to say allegedly.
Of course, allegedly.
Starting back in 2017.
Right.
And it's all right there in the lawsuit, very, very specifically. They alleged that he got out of the shower unclothed right in front of her. That when they went to LA, he booked one hotel room for the two of them. It's not vague. This is like...
No, it's very specific. And I think that plays into how interesting how Brooks has responded.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just come out with a denial. He comes out swinging.
He's lawyering up.
He filed a preemptive lawsuit as John Doe.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he's John Doe. That's interesting.
He's John Doe, and he's calling all of these accusations threats, lies, and tragic tales. So he's not just like, oh, I didn't do this. He's saying like, this is a hit job.
Right. Right.
This is an attack.
Yeah, like, look at me, look at my life. Why would I ever?
Exactly. And you see that in the language that he uses, even in his response.
Oh, tell me more about this.
Because he uses words like loaded gun. He talks about hush money. And it's almost as if he's trying to paint himself as the victim in this.
Ah, interesting.
Like he's the one who's being targeted in some kind of elaborate scheme.
Yeah.
Which, we've seen that before. It's a very high-risk, high-reward tactic in these kinds of cases.
Yeah. Okay, so he's definitely not backing down.
No, not at all.
But, we can't ignore this other kind of like elephant in the room, right? Which is that we are in this #MeToo era, and we have seen these kinds of accusations come out years, sometimes even decades, after whatever the alleged incident was.
Right. And makes you think about, like, the Harvey Weinstein case.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is a situation where it took decades for those accusations to gain traction.
And it makes you wonder, like, how much of that was because of the power dynamics, right?
Exactly.
Like, how much power did he have?
And the fear, too. I mean, to come forward in that kind of situation.
It's huge, especially when it's someone, like, as big as Garth Brooks.
Yeah. And that's what I think is so interesting about this case.
Yeah.
Because you have this figure who's built this career.
Right, like the everyman.
Right. He's the guy next door.
Right, singing about friends in low places and like,
exactly.
I've been to his concerts. I love his music. And it's like, this doesn't compute.
And it challenges us, I think, to remember that, like, we often only see a very specific, very curated...
The persona.
It's a product, right?
Yes.
Like, we're all selling something, but he's,
Especially in that industry.
Yeah.
And I think, we're left with these two very different narratives.
Yeah.
You have Jane Roe, who's alleging these really serious...
Deeply personal
things. And then you have Brooks, who's basically saying, like, this never happened. This is not me. This is not who I am.
Right. And how do you... I mean, it's the classic he said, she said.
Right. And how do you prove it?
Exactly.
Especially without, like... witnesses. I mean, what are you going to do?
It becomes so difficult, and I think it really highlights the challenges that we face as a society, when you're dealing with these kinds of accusations.
It's messy, and it's like, how do you even, where do we go from here? It's kind of like we're being asked to be jurors or something, right?
Right.
But we don't have all the facts.
And it's such a messy case.
Yeah, it is.
And I think, too, we have to acknowledge, like, the historical context here.
Yeah.
Because for so long, these kinds of accusations, they were dismissed.
Right. Like women were just making it up.
Exactly.
For money or attention.
And I think what the #MeToo movement has done is it's forced this reckoning, this shift in how we view these claims, how we listen to them.
But it's not just the legal system, right?
Right.
Like, he's facing the court of public opinion, too.
Well, absolutely. And that's happening right now on social media.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he's not shying away from it.
He's fighting back.
He's fighting back. He's using that same,
Platform.
exactly. He's shaping the narrative.
Yeah.
He's saying, this is not me. I'm the victim here.
He's putting it all out there.
He is.
But is that, like, I don't know, is that going to work?
Well, and that's the thing, right?
I mean, we've seen it work both ways.
Public opinion is so fickle.
It really is.
It can change so quickly.
Yeah, and like you said, social media just amplifies all of that.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, like, let's say this happened 20 years ago,
Okay.
before social media, right? Right.
Would this be different?
I think it would be completely different.
You think so?
I think it would be a much more, like, contained
Yeah.
legal battle, behind closed doors.
Instead of this big public
Exactly.
spectacle.
And I think that's the thing, right? Social media, it's like this double-edged sword.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it gives a voice to people who might not have had one before,
Right.
but it can be used to spread misinformation,
Oh, for sure.
to amplify things that maybe aren't true.
It's like, how do you even know what to believe anymore?
Right, and that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, at what point does social media, does it help or does it hurt?
Yeah, and I think that's something, as we kind of close out this deep dive here.
Yeah.
That's something I really want our listeners to sit with, right? Absolutely.
Because it's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the gossip and, whose side are you on and all of that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this is really serious.
It is. They're real people
Yeah.
with real lives.
And this is going to have a real impact no matter what happens.
Exactly. And that's why I think these conversations are so important.
Yeah.
Because it's not about, having all the answers.
Mhm.
It's about, like you said, sitting with the discomfort
Yeah.
of not knowing,
Yeah.
of grappling with these complex issues.
And realizing that there are nuances here.
Absolutely.
It's not black and white.
Right.
It's not easy.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think that's really what we're trying to do here. It's just like, start the conversation.
Exactly. Get people thinking, get people talking.
Yes.
And, hopefully at the end of the day, we all come out of this a little bit more informed.
I'm more empathetic.
Yeah, a little more understanding.
Exactly.
So on that note, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
But as always, keep the conversation going.
Absolutely.
Talk to your friends, talk to your family, read up on it.
Get informed.
Get informed, make your own decisions.
Right.
And until next time,
Keep diving deep.